We are so quick to blame God when we see injustice around the world, when we see all the evil that is happening around the world. We tend to run very quickly and we question God. But today, while I share with you some devastating and heartbreaking news about our adoption process within China, the message that I want to convey to you is that God is still good, even in the midst of the injustices, even in the midst of these trials, that we have no understanding of what God is doing or why He is allowing things like this to happen. My message here is to share the hope that is in Christ. I might do that through some tears, but that is my goal here on this video today. February or early March of 2020, as you all know, COVID shut down the world everywhere, right? And that also included international adoptions. Well, in April of 2020, right after the shutdown, we started a process of adopting a little girl in China whom we have chosen the name Lily Grace for. At the time, she was, 3.5 years old, and we were quickly approved to adopt her. So we have claimed her as our own for well over 4 years, I guess 4.5 years now. We have spoken of her as our daughter. At the time of starting that adoption process, we had no idea that 4.5 years later, we would still be waiting for her to come home. And it's not just our family. It is, I believe, over 400 other families here in America. There are some in Spain and Italy and Canada that have been dramatically affected by the result of China not resuming adoptions. Over the past 4.5 years, there has been little to no communication from China with the adoption agencies and the adoptive families. If they did deliver a message, it was that there was hope and that we will resume adoptions. They never put a timeline on it. They never put why there was such a long halt with these adoptions. Meanwhile, other countries resumed adoptions. I don't know. I'm thinking 6 to 8 months after COVID hit. Many other countries had resumed their adoptions and were getting the pending adoptions completed. But for whatever reason, China was not communicating with any of the adoption agencies, and we were just all left clueless. We had no idea if we would be able to finish our adoptions, what that would look like, and so literally for about 4 years, there was just complete silence, and it was gut-wrenching. But we clung to hope. We have spoken of Lily Grace as if she is our own. All of these other families who have been matched with children claim them as their own. They have been praying for them daily. Videos and pictures Last summer of 2023, we finally received communication from the powers that be in China, and they said that many of the families, I believe it's about 16 to 18 families who had travel approval when COVID shut down, they were given permission to travel and bring their kids home. So we were all hopeful that, okay, they're going to resume adoptions. Well, here comes January 2024, and then February, and then March, and then April, and there is still no word, and we are all feeling down in the dumps and hopeless again. And everyone has just been clinging to any little glimmer of hope that they can find in the news media. Anytime that politically that China and the U.S. would meet, there was always, fingers crossed and prayers being offered up that hopefully this will help spur China to resume adoptions, but it didn't. So we received the news this past Wednesday on September 4th. Adoption agencies received an official statement that China will no longer be facilitating foreign adoptions, and that includes all of the pending adoptions. Foreign adoptions have halted and they will not be resumed. While I am not shocked that this decision has been made by China, I think I've kind of been preparing myself that this could be a possibility. I'm just floored at, despite political disagreements and despite that two countries are not politically aligned and that there's troubles between two countries, that such an inhumane decision can be made that is going to affect the most vulnerable of them all. It's the orphans there in China that are going to pay the biggest price for this decision. The waiting families, we will heal, we will continue to go on with our lives on some level. But these children are going to reap immeasurable, devastating, detrimental, lifelong effects of this decision. And it is just appalling that because of political indifferences between two countries, the most vulnerable of them all are going to suffer the most. And it's heart-wrenching. There are lots of other things I could say, but I'm trying to be wise with my words and wise with my thoughts as I share them publicly here. But as you can imagine, after 4.5 years of waiting on a little girl to come home into your family, a little girl that desperately needs a family, she will no longer be given that opportunity. And that opportunity has been stripped from not only her, but well over, I believe the running number of orphans within China is somewhere around 150 to 160,000. Whether or not every single one of those numbers are adoptable, I do not know. But that is what the orphan crisis looks like just within China. It's like I can't wrap my brain around it. And I can't wrap my brain around the fact that these children, their lives, their fate, their future has been sealed. And unless and until the Lord moves mountains or returns and takes them home, those children will never be able to experience the love of a family. They will never be able to experience what it's like to have a mom and a dad, to be tucked at night on a comfortable bed where they know they're going to be safe throughout the night. And when they wake up in the morning, they're going to be fed, they're going to be loved on, they're going to have clothing that is just theirs, they're going to have toys that are just theirs, they're going to have identity, they're going to have safety, they're going to have provision. They have been ripped from all of that, and it just blows my mind. So as you hear me speak about this, please know that our family will be okay. We will be okay. And I don't mean that there's not heartbreak there and there's not grief that will be taking place and that we are not clinging to hope and prayers. It just means that this is about the orphans. This is about them, and they have no hope. They have no hope. They have no one coming for them. and it's absolutely devastating. I know many of you are probably going to leave suggestions down below in the comment sections of, have you contacted your senator? Have you contacted this? Can you just go over there and take your child if she's yours? Well, no, none of those things can happen, because I promise you, if you saw our adoption support group, there's a lot of mama bears and papa bears in there, and they have really tried to do everything that they can, from contacting state representatives, phone calls with the Secretary of State, all the things have been done. And no, we cannot just go over there and take our child, because for us personally, we still had 3 steps left in the process, about 3 steps left in the process to complete before we could travel and bring her home. But the thing with China, you would travel over there and stay for about 2 weeks in 2 different provinces, and you would finalize the adoption there, and then that child then would legally be yours. And once they step on U.S. soil, they then will be a U.S. citizen. So please refrain from offering suggestions of what we could do or what we should do in order to bring our daughter home or to resolve this issue with China. It just is not. It's already been thought about. It's already been done if doable, and it's really out of our controls. It's been out of our control for years. At the end of the day, China's going to do what China wants to do, with no regard to their children who were born in their country, who they claim to find such value in. If you go walk through orphanages, you will see that there's no value placed in those children. They have no identity. You can't tell the boys from the girls. They don't have clothes to call their own. They don't have their own toys. I just can't wrap my brain around it. I just can't wrap my brain around it. I know I said that about 20 times, but that's just where I'm at. Many of the families, including our dear friends Jennifer and Brandon, were privileged enough to have direct contact with the children that they were adopting. And several of the many of the families were able to video chat with them and to send the child gifts. And those children knew that they had a mom and a dad coming for them. They knew that. And now there's this whole nother layer of abandonment that child is going to have to work through, because now mom and dad are not coming. Where have mom and dad gone? And it's just heartbreaking that this could have been avoided. This whole layer of grief and abandonment and suffering could have been prevented for these kids. But instead, the powers that be chose to disregard that. And it's heartbreaking, to say the least. As you're looking through these pictures of these orphans and hearing our story, I hope this gives you a sense of urgency to say yes to adoption. If adoption is something you've always thought about, or even if adoption is not something you have ever thought about, I would encourage you to step up and say yes to an orphan. We are not promised tomorrow. We are not promised tomorrow. And these orphans deserve a family to stand up and say, yes, I will go to hell and high waters to give that child a family. We will be that child's family. Because if it's not you, then who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? Look at all those faces that you just saw. They were created with purpose, just like you and I. They deserve a life. They deserve a family. They deserve your yes. And if it's not going to be you, then who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? And let me tell you, please refrain from leaving comments down below saying, I've always wanted to adopt, but I've always wanted to adopt, but. I get it. There are some circumstances that will not allow families to adopt. But I also know that there's a plethora of excuses from people who really just need to keep their mouth shut if they're going to throw out stupid, asinine excuses and why they can't adopt. And you may think that's a little harsh, and that's okay. If you've been around here, you know that I don't care. I don't care not because I'm an unloving, ruthless person. It's just I don't care because I promise you, if you went and uttered one of those excuses to an orphan, they say, I don't care. I don't care about that. I don't care about the size of your house. I don't care about how much money you make or don't make. I don't care that you think things will be taken away from your biological children because an orphan comes into your family and disrupts your flow of things. An orphan does not want to hear any of those excuses. They just want a yes, and they need a yes. And so please, if you are watching this video, I would really encourage you to say yes to adoption, whether you've ever thought about it or not. The orphan crisis is real. It's real, y'all, and it's devastating. A fellow adoptive mama shared this with me today. She had the privilege of being able to communicate with her son, who is now 17 and a half years old. He is fixing to age out. And over the past several years, she has been able to communicate with him through writing letters. And this is one of the last letters that he wrote. I am very lonely, watching other people have their parents, but I am alone. I feel very sad, and I want to have my parents by my side. Mom, you haven't written to me for a long time. I am very anxious. Is there something wrong? Mom, I am very afraid that you will not want me. I have no sense of security in my heart. I am afraid that you will not want me. I really hope to live with you soon. I hope you can write me a letter. I really want to hear what you guys have to say. Finally, please write to me. I can't wait to read your letter. I wish the family peace and happiness. Love, your little. And that was written back in July of 2023. On social media, I shared a post last week on my thoughts about prayer over this situation. And the Lord knows my heart. He knows my heart. He knows my heart. He knows my thoughts before I can even speak. And so it's like, do I keep uttering the same prayers over and over and over when an answer has been given? And the answer is yes. Yes, I do. But it's also like, Lord, you know my heart, you know my prayers, you know my desires are for your will to be done. If it is not for our little girl to come home, okay, I just want your will to be done because your ways are perfect. He knows that's how I truly feel. So it's like, do I kind of let control of those prayers? Almost as like, Lord, I trust you. Does that make sense? I feel like it makes sense in my head, but maybe it doesn't make sense when I speak it. And so I shared that on social media, and so many people came back and they shared, yes, you keep praying. And they shared so much wisdom and many thoughts. And one of my friends shared the parable of the persistent widow. And it's in Luke 18, what is it? I've got it written in my notes. 18, 2 through 8. Do not scroll here. Don't say, oh, Lord, she's cranking out her Bible. She's fixing to read to us. This is literally just a few verses. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. In a certain town, there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared what people thought. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, grant me justice against my adversary. For some time he refused, but finally he said to himself, even though I don't fear God or care what people think, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice, so that she won't eventually come and attack me. And the Lord said, listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones, who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice, and quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? So in our grumblings, in our weariness where we just want to give up, and it's like, okay, Lord, I've prayed the prayers for so long. I'm done praying the prayers. You do your thing. We need to remember the widow and remember the characteristics that she portrayed. Boy, was she diligent and persistent and bold. Like, I mean, if you just kept getting shut down, would you keep going back? over and over? She did. And I want to be that. I want to be that. And this has renewed me to keep going and to keep praying for our little girl. And even if I don't see justice served on this side of eternity, I can trust that it will be served, because it's already been completed at the cross, and because I know who God's character is. He is a good God. He is understanding. He is loving. He is patient. He is gracious. He offers mercy. I have to rest in who God is and not in these circumstances and this tragic situation that man has created. Because here's the deal, I know a lot of people are probably going to be watching this video and hear me talking about God and saying, well, if he's such a good God, then why are orphans still raiding? If he is such a good God, why does he allow bad things like that to happen? And while I don't have all the answers for you, I'm not a theologian at all by any means. But all I can say is that back in Genesis 2, it says that sin entered the world when Adam and Eve disobeyed God in the garden. God told them not to eat from this certain tree. Eve said, well, this looks really good to me. It looks really pleasing to me, and so I'm going to take a bite of it. And then Adam did too, and that is when sin and evil entered. They disobeyed God. So because of man's free will to either follow Christ or not, to either choose sin or not, that is why things like this in the world happen. That's as simple as I can put it. I don't understand it all. You know, I can understand grown adults like us. If we choose sin, we're going to reap the consequences of it. I get that. But these orphans who are in this situation of no choice of their own, and they are suffering the most, I don't understand it. And it's very easy to start questioning God and going down that dark rabbit hole. But y'all have heard me say it before, I can't go there. That's not where I'm supposed to be. It's not my job to understand all of God's ways. It is not my job. It's my job to trust in him and to walk out a faith-filled life and knowing that he is sovereign and his ways are best. I feel like I could keep speaking and just kind of saying the same thing over and over, but I hope that you are able to take away some wisdom from this video. I hope that you walk away from this encouraged to be diligent and persistent in your prayers within your life. I ask that you continue to pray for our little girl and to pray for this crisis that is on our hand with the just the orphan crisis across the world, not only in China but across the world. And of course, if anything was to change, I will absolutely let y'all know first. But y'all have been so supportive here on our channel with all of our adoptions, and I so greatly appreciate it and appreciate all the prayers. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave it here. Thank y'all so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.